The ocean hides some of the most chilling and extraordinary discoveries. From deep-sea creatures that look like monsters to ancient remains preserved in ice, science is constantly pulling back the curtain on mysteries that defy belief. But sometimes, the most shocking revelations don't come from the abyss. They wash up right on our shores. In this video, we'll explore the extraordinary case of conjoined gray whale calves, along with other discoveries, from lost walruses to terrifying prehistoric predators that continue to astonish scientists and raise haunting questions about our world. The conjoined whales of Mexico. On a quiet day in January 2014, scientists and locals at Scammons Lagoon in Baja California, Mexico, stumbled upon a sight so rare that it would enter the scientific record books. Washed ashore were not one, but two gray whale calves, joined together, lifeless and heartbreakingly small. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary stranding, something common in regions where whales migrate and give birth. But as marine biologists studied the carcasses, they realized this was no ordinary tragedy. They were looking at the world's first documented case of conjoined gray whales. Conjoined twins are a rare phenomenon across all species, including humans, and in the case of whales, they are almost unheard of. Prior to this discovery, records existed of conjoined calves in species like fin whales and minke whales, but never in gray whales. This made the find both scientifically extraordinary and emotionally devastating, as it underscored the fragility of life in the ocean. This is a very small calf by gray whale standards. A healthy newborn calf ranges in length between 12 to 16 feet, the two joined together in the middle, only making about 7 feet long altogether. They also appeared too small for being to be considered nearly full-term. Most people would agree it is a miscarriage before birth. Therefore, there is no chance of surviving in the wild. Marine biologist Elisa Schulman-Janega from the American Cetacean Society noted that the twins were very underdeveloped, which may raise concerns over the health of the others and the stresses she might have undergone in her pregnancy. This beautiful lagoon, found by the two, Laguna Ojo de Liebre, often known as Scammons Lagoon, is famous for its breeding and calving ground for gray whales. Thousands every year migrate from these icy waters of the Arctic to the warmer, calmer winter lagoons of Baja California to mate and give birth. The fact that this happened in one of the most important nurseries for the species made the finding even more exciting. For scientists, it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see what happens when things go wrong for nature at the earliest stages of life. The carcasses were preserved for the research. The scientists studied the skeletal morphology, the internal organs, and the fusion of the exterior anatomy of the carcasses. By this, they hoped not just to identify what went wrong in the development of these twins, but also what such cases could teach about whale reproduction, genetics, and the threats that whales face today. Every detail recorded would become a piece of a larger puzzle meant to inform conservation efforts to protect future generations of whales. The finding was tragic, yet purposeful. Conjoined whale calves may provide insight into the rare biological anomalies encountered in marine mammals while serving as reminders of the vulnerability of ocean species. For every whale calf born in the lagoons of Baja that survives its infancy, countless dangers await. Ship strikes, entanglement in fishing gear, habitat loss, and climate effects on food availability. Understood in this way, the conjoined whales became a sign of not just rare genetic misfortune, but the even greater fragility of life in the oceans. This information quickly created waves within the scientific community and through headlines worldwide. For different individuals, the picture with haggard waters became ghostly. It seemed to tell the true story that even in the vast ocean, life is really really short-lived and often snuffed out before it even begins. For someone, it became like a call to all attention to the hidden travails of marine life, because it raises the question of what anomalies like that might still be undiscovered underwater. There might be even more lying beneath the waves. Their lives ended before they even started. Conjoined twins re-inherited a legacy of curiosity and awareness. They reminded the world, however, that deep in the power and beauty of the ocean, no survival was guaranteed. And in that sense, their story is not lost. It is balanced in the very delicate nature part that science is only beginning to fully grasp. But while these twins never survived, their fate opened the door to deeper questions about marine life and the survival struggles of whales. What whale twins reveal. The case of the conjoined gray whales in Mexico was more than a heartbreaking anomaly. It was a window into the rarely seen world of whale reproduction. For most people, the idea of whale twins seems impossible. After all, whales are massive creatures, and the thought of a mother sustaining two calves inside her body sounds unimaginable. And yet, twin pregnancies in whales do occur, though almost always with tragic outcomes. Marine biologists explain that the biology of whales is simply not built for twins. A healthy gray whale calf already requires extraordinary resources before it even takes its first breath. At birth, calves measure between 12 and 16 feet in length and weigh around 1,500 pounds. To sustain that kind of growth, a mother must consume enormous amounts of food and then produce fatty, nutrient-rich milk capable of fueling a rapid growth rate. Now, imagine doubling that demand with twins. Even if both calves were carried to term, their chances of surviving after birth would be slim, as the mother would struggle to produce enough milk to feed them both. The conjoined calves discovered in 2014 underscored just how rare and precarious these situations are. Because they were underdeveloped and miscarried, scientists could study their anatomy and development in ways that wouldn't be possible with a healthy calf. This gave researchers clues about what might have gone wrong during gestation. Were there genetic mutations at play? Was the mother stressed, malnourished, or exposed to pollutants that could have affected her pregnancy? Each question matters because the answers can reveal not only the biology of whales, but also the health of the ecosystems they depend on. These events, although rare, do not belong to just one species and have been proven by previous accounts of these whales' congenital calves in the fin and in the mink. They appear to be the result of a natural error during early embryological development when cells fail to separate completely. Scientists say that their cause could also be related to environmental stressors. For instance, warmer oceans or exposure to toxins might render pregnancies more susceptible to food shortages. In this sense, the joined gray whales were not only biological anomalies, they may also have been warnings about the current conditions threatening the whales. Due to the aforementioned reasons, and also in regard to whale twin discoveries in general, scientists have realized how little they understand about whale reproduction itself. Working below the ocean's surface, whales carry their pregnancies privately. This makes the observation of mating, gestation, and birthing nearly impossible in the wild. Most findings by scientists are derived from data observed through strandings, dissections, and rare instances of direct observation in calving lagoons along the lines of those found in Baja California. Every unusual finding, whether of conjoined calves or stillbirths, becomes a window to understanding where they are lacking. A rather ironic twist to this is that some knowledge gained from such a tragedy can benefit living whales. Knowledge of reasons or causes of pregnancy failures might highlight possible threats to environmental risks and encourage stronger protective measures. If pollutants or nutritional stressors were implicated, conservationists could then use this information to argue for cleaner waters or the safeguarding of migratory routes and feeding grounds. In other terms, the saga of two lost calves could propagate outward to inform and, therefore, impact policy in favor of entire populations. For the indigenous people and local ecotourism groups in Baja California, the presence of whales is more than just a scientific curiosity. It's a lifeline. The gray whale watching business constitutes an important regional economic activity, and the livelihoods people derive from it depend on the health of the species. The conjoined twins serve as a powerful reminder that human beings are responsible for the lives of these whales. Protecting them, therefore, becomes more than just saving a species. It is also about protecting the coastal community's cultural and economic heritage. And while scientists worked to piece together lessons from these lost calves, another marine mystery was unfolding thousands of miles away. The walrus who woke in Ireland. When a young girl and her father set out for a simple walk along Glanliam Beach on Valentia Island in County Kerry, Ireland, they never expected to stumble across a creature that looked as though it had wandered out of an Arctic legend. At first, they thought they were seeing a seal resting on the sand, but then they spotted the unmistakable tusks, long, curved, and gleaming. What they had found was not a seal at all, but a walrus. And not just any walrus. This was the first confirmed sighting of a walrus in Ireland in more than 90 years. The story quickly made headlines in March 2021. Marine biologists scrambled to explain how such an animal, normally confined to the icy fringes of the Arctic, had arrived on Ireland's southwest coast. Kevin Flannery, marine biologist and director of the Dingle Ocean World Aquarium, offered the most plausible explanation. The walrus had likely fallen asleep on a drifting piece of ice near Greenland. As it slept, the ice carried it far away, eventually releasing it into the Atlantic Ocean. When the walrus awoke, it found itself in a place it didn't recognize, and in a desperate bid to find its way home, it swam in the wrong direction, straight toward Ireland. Biologists observed that the young male walrus was skinny, quite empty, with no characteristic fat deposits, so essential to a healthy Arctic walrus. The above findings gave the impression that the animal might have undertaken swimming for several painstaking miles into hundreds before it otherwise came to rest on Irish shores. The walrus seemed as exhausted and disoriented as much as himself surprised in the new environs, probably as humans who found it. While this was a remarkable sighting event in itself, it is not wholly without precedent. There have been sightings of walruses in Ireland as far back as the late 1980s and early 1990s, and even before then, in October 1930. However, such sightings are few and far between, and thus each visit is deemed quite a momentous biological event. The walrus is not migratory to the same degree as a whale, although they need sea ice for resting, breeding, and hunting. One turning up in Ireland is a reminder not only of the unpredictability of nature, but also of the fragility of the Arctic environment. Scientists linked it almost immediately to climate change. The recent decades have shown rapid melting of the Greenland ice sheet, speeding up the loss of stable ice platforms upon which walruses rest and rely. As these animals search for new places to rest or drift with the ice, they encounter increasingly unfamiliar waters. The Irish walrus certainly wasn't alone in this trend. In 2019, a polar bear was found in a Russian city nearly 300 miles away from its natural habitat. Another stark indication of species forced into strange lands by a changing environment. The walrus soon became a sensation on Valentia Island. The locals referred to him as Wally, with images circulating around the globe. However, marine mammalogists warned against such a thriving celebrity status, informing people that walruses, however large and magnificent, are still wild animals and may react threateningly if disturbed. They did, however, highlight the need for people to understand what Wally represented, not merely a curiosity, but a warning that ecosystems, too, are changing in ways that displace animals from their rightful territories. The sudden appearance of the walrus raised very strong scientific questions. How many more Arctic animals wander south as their icy habitat melts around them? How will they find the conditions necessary for their survival in new ecosystems? And what is their presence to mean for local species and habitats that are unprepared for such visitors? This sighting in Ireland reminds one that climate change is not some far-off problem confined to the imaginations happening in the here and now, continuously changing the courses animals take around the world and bringing the Arctic into unexpected places. The walrus on that Irish beach was more than a surprise visitor. It was a warning. If a walrus can accidentally end up in Ireland, what other creatures from the deep past might resurface in our time? a monstrous cousin of the T-Rex. For decades, the Tyrannosaurus rex has held the crown as one of the most fearsome predators in Earth's history. Its towering size, bone-crushing jaws, and pop culture fame have made it the undisputed king of dinosaurs. But in 2020, paleontologists in Argentina unearthed a discovery that suggested T-Rex had a bizarre cousin, one just as terrifying, but equipped with adaptations that made it stand apart in shocking ways. The fossil, found in Argentina's Bajo de la Carpa Formation, belonged to a new species named Lucalcon aleocranianus. The name translates to the one who causes fear, and it couldn't be more fitting. This predator lived around 80 million years ago, roaming South America during the late Cretaceous period. While smaller than T-Rex, about 16 feet long, it was no less fearsome. Its skull revealed a suite of strange and unique features that set it apart from anything paleontologists had seen before. Unlike the smooth, heavy-boned skull of T-Rex, Lucalcon's head was covered with ridges, bumps, and horn-like protrusions. These structures may have been used for display, intimidation, or even combat with rivals. Combined with large, hooked claws and powerful jaws lined with sharp teeth, this dinosaur painted the picture of a predator built not only to slay, but also to terrify. Its very appearance seemed designed to send a message. This was no ordinary carnivore, but the ears of Lucalcon were the true defining feature of the animal. Within the skull, scientists located an unusual sinus pocket mid-vault of the ear. Such a modification would have permitted the dinosaur increased auditory sensitivity with the ability to detect low-frequency sounds across a far greater range than its fellow predators. To put it simply, Lucalcon could hear its prey long before its prey would hear Lucalcon approach. In concert with a keen sense of smell, this animal may have stalked its prey in stealth with horrifying accuracy. A prehistoric hunter serially on top of the food chain by these capabilities, says lead researcher Federico Giannichini, who published the account in the Journal of Vertebrate Paleontology. In such a prehistoric world, overly saturated with competition, even the slightest edge could mean life versus death. With super hearing and looper olfaction, Lucalcon emerged as one of the most competent hunters of its day. The finding has also contradicted many earlier notions regarding Southern Hemisphere predator diversity. Till now, T-Rex and its relatives in North America had received most of the limelight. Lucalcon belonged to the family of abelisaurids, carnivorous dinosaurs that thrived across South America, Africa, India, and Antarctica. Occurrences on various continents suggest that they, too, may have had a widespread dominion, rivaling that of the northern tyrannosaurs. Thus, this discovery gives an indication of what fearsome predation outside North America looks like. Independently evolved and adapted, but with the same terror traits in different parts of the world. Most importantly, fossils such as Lucalcon expand our knowledge of evolution, and not just for the terrific shock value they have. Each one of those ridges on the skull and every single pocket in the ear recounts tales about the interplay of adaptation and competition, and survival. The odd features of this creature were not just peculiarities, but rather evolution-niched strategies developed over millions of years. Imagining Lucalcon hunting its prey out along the floodplains of ancient Argentina provokes a cultivated form of dread. Perhaps smaller than T-Rex, but equally dangerous, this was a sort of predator that could, for a while, claim the title of true lord. In this way, it serves to remind us that the Earth's history is littered with monsters unknown, each endowed with the strangest adaptations beyond the realm of our imagination. But while fossils tell us about predators of the past, frozen remains in the north give us an eerie, almost intact glimpse into the Ice Age world. Secrets of the woolly rhinoceros. If dinosaurs like Lucalcon remind us of predators that vanished millions of years ago, discoveries in Siberia give us an eerily tangible connection to animals that roamed the Earth far more recently, creatures that lived alongside early humans. In 2007, miners in the Kolyma Mountains of northeastern Siberia unearthed something astonishing: the nearly complete mummified remains of a woolly rhinoceros frozen in the permafrost for almost 39,000 years. Unlike dinosaur fossils preserved in stone, this Ice Age giant was discovered with skin, fur, and even parts of its stomach intact, as if it had been trapped in time. The specimen, believed to be a 3- or 4-year-old female, was so well preserved that its thick gray skin still carried patches of brown fur. Its ears, tail, and much of its left side remained intact. Even its iconic horns, curved and protruding from its snout, were still attached, lending it a haunting resemblance to its modern descendants. Standing next to it, researchers described the experience as looking into the face of prehistory, a direct glimpse into a world that had vanished but still seemed within reach. Coelodonta antiquitatis, commonly known as the woolly rhinoceros, once traversed extensive expanses of the northern tundra from Siberia to Europe. These large herbivores weighed more than a ton and possessed all the adaptations to survive in the terrible cold of the Ice Age. With heavy fur coats, thick skin, and layers of insulating fat, these beasts could withstand the cold, while large horns would assist them in moving snow away to uncover grasses and shrubs underneath. They were, in every respect, highly capable of survival in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Not just a wonderful remnant, the Siberian discovery offered scientists rare glimpses into the biology and daily lives of these animals. According to radiocarbon dating, the find dates from the close of the Pleistocene epoch. Analysis of stomach cavity contents revealed fragments of grasses and sagebrush, confirming what many suspected about woolly rhino diets. Pollen and spores preserved in its digestive tract allowed scientists to reconstruct an ancient ecosystem by painting that as a cold, windswept tundra rich with hard plants supporting megafaunal herds. It's perhaps the most intriguing aspect of genetic studies on such remains. They were able to show the adaptation of woolly rhinos to the cold. Mutations seen in DNA affected fat metabolism and temperature regulation, aiding in the survival of these rhinos in freezing climates. These adaptations may have sealed their fate, however. With the close of the Ice Age and a rise in temperatures, the environment changed rapidly. Grasslands shrank, forests spread, and the very climate for which the woolly rhinoceros was adapted began to disappear. They could not adapt quickly enough to join another list of Ice Age megafauna that went forever with them. The books and papers have it that, as to consequence, in October 2023, human overlay or hunting is a factor that has raised great concern against the extinction of woolly rhinos. Certainly, early people came across the woolly rhinos and hunted them, as shown by ancient cave paintings done in France depicting these creatures. But the now somewhat contradictory studies prefer climate changes throughout history over mere hunting, which means that hunting was in and out of the discussion. That atmosphere enhanced temperature and strayed too far out of their habitat so that they had nowhere else to go. These ancient remains paint a picture of survival against cold. But warming oceans today are creating new mysteries, sometimes tragic, that wash ashore. Patterns of stranding and survival. The sight of a massive whale or dolphin washed ashore on a beach is both heartbreaking and puzzling. For centuries, strandings have stirred fear, superstition, and wonder. Ancient peoples sometimes saw them as omens of disaster or gifts from the gods. Today, science approaches them as critical clues, unwelcome, tragic, but valuable windows into the hidden struggles of life beneath the waves. Strandings happen around the world and across species. Whales, dolphins, porpoises, seals, and even giant squid have turned up on coasts in states ranging from exhaustion to death. Some strandings involve solitary individuals, while others are mass events in which dozens or even hundreds of animals beach themselves together. Each case raises the same haunting question: why? Another explanation could point to navigation errors. Many cetaceans and pinnipeds rely on echolocation to orient themselves, sending out clicks, and then listening for echoes. In shallow coastal waters, especially those with shifting sandbars and unusual underwater topography, echoes can bounce back in confusing ways. A pod may follow a leader into dangerous shallows, whereafter one animal may beach itself, and one after another beached themselves, either from loyalty or confusion, leading to mass strandings. With human activity giving more trouble, the sonar of ships and seismic testing produce loud sounds underwater that may disrupt their echolocation. Research has shown that some strandings are correlated with military exercises, making it possible that they panic and flee the sound toward land, eventually running aground in shallow waters. Pollution and increasing ocean noise further hamper communication and navigation. Sickness is another factor. Parasites and infections or injuries may weaken the marine mammals so that they become disoriented and less capable of returning to deeper waters after having drifted too close to shore. Necropsies performed in some cases have shown signs of ear trauma or brain infections that could impair navigation. In these instances, the pod tends to stay close to the sick animal, and as a result, the healthy ones refuse to abandon their companion, resulting in mass stranding. These climatic changes are also pushing the animals to wander into unfamiliar territory. Shifts in ocean temperature and currents redirect the species' prey. Hence, the nuts unleash predators such as whales and dolphins into new waters where they may be more vulnerable to hazards. Climate change has aggravated the problem. Just like an IA husky may have gone far away from its home due to ice melting, many other marine animals are being forced into environments that they just don't have the right biological equipment to cope with. Strandings may be found here as the unfortunate evidence of ecosystems under strain. Strandings are, however, of draft. Analyzing the serial. Researchers cannot tell enough about the stranded animal, such as the diet, disease, pollution exposure, and even migration over long distances, when stranded bodies have been analyzed by science. This may lead to the first clues of whether heavy metals or plastics are present, something which provides insight into how man's actions affect ocean life. And as we uncover these chilling patterns, one truth becomes clear. Each discovery is both a warning and a chance to understand our fragile connection to the natural world. What these discoveries mean for us. From conjoined whale calves in Mexico to walruses waking up on Irish beaches, from dinosaur skulls in Argentina to frozen woolly rhinos in Siberia, each discovery carries more than scientific novelty. They are not isolated curiosities. Together, they paint a picture of a planet in constant flux, where life adapts, struggles, and sometimes fails. For us, these findings raise unsettling questions about our relationship with nature and whether we are prepared to face the lessons they reveal. The joined gray whales are more than an unusual biological accident, and they are also a metaphor for the tenuousness of reproduction among the species already under stress. If such occurrences were curtailed, are they indicative of stress in the populations of whales from pollution and climate change, or from reduced food sources? The scientists cannot say just yet, but they know each lost calf matters much for a species that fights to survive in ever more harsh seas. Their tragic fate also serves to remind us that conservation is not only about numbers. It is about ensuring the health and resilience of whole ecosystems. The arrival of the walrus in Ireland brought up a whole different type of narrative. The account, at first glance, was cute, revolving around nicknames and unbelievable photos going viral. But the trivial was epiphanic. The Arctic wildlife, which climatic disturbances are displacing, have been placed in impromptu journeys because of the disappearance of the Greenland ice sheet. Species realizing their habitats have shrunken and becoming removed by vast distances from their homeland. While unintended, the drift of the aforementioned walrus stemmed from imparting forces. Its appearance on the beach of Ireland becomes a reflection of the spirit of a world whose temperature is rising too darn quickly. The monstrous sister of T-Rex that was dug up in Argentina recalled an important lesson about evolution. It does not stand still. For millions of years, predators like the lucalcan have utilized their domains to evolve, immediately imbuing them with extra speed, stealth, and ferocity. Nevertheless, they too vanished. It is with fossils like this that we learn about resilience. They also tell us a lot regarding extinction. In the order of things, no matter how exquisitely adapted, no species is immune to change. The lesson from history was that survival is not dominance, but adaptability. The frost-bitten woolly rhinoceros sharply highlighted much of history. It has an animal that survived the very harsh cold of the ice ages, a body made perfect for enduring freezing tundras. It was indeed someone who could not bear the high temperatures when the climate changed. Humans were involved then, but the world also sufficiently changed in ways far beyond this species could even imagine. Today, however, the reverse problem has gone to such extremes, rising global temperatures too fast for many species to cope with. The woolly rhino is a history lesson, introducing us to the still tedious fact that the rules of survival change with climate change. Even giants can fall. Such strandings are messages that come from the sea. Every beaching whale or dolphin, as that, is part of a bigger story that might be told about the deafening effect of sonar disorientation, about illness related to pollution, or concerning broken migrations due to warming oceans. For scientists, it would be termed a tragic opportunity to gain data. For most of us, however, it is a message that stirs very deep tributes to the fact that all marine life parallels the health of the planet. When animals go astray, the balance of the environment is usually lost. From conjoined whale calves in Mexico to a walrus waking up in Ireland, these discoveries remind us that the natural world is both wondrous and fragile. They challenge our assumptions and force us to ask difficult questions about survival, extinction, and our impact on the planet. What do you make of these chilling discoveries? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and watch the next video on screen now as we uncover more hidden stories and mysteries of our world.